This is the CreaseCast.
In life, there are three guarantees. There are three true guarantees in life, and that is there's death, taxes, and the Canucks winning or losing to the wrong teams. Welcome to the CreaseCast. It is just me today. I am Lachlan Irvin, and I am reintroducing myself a little bit here because, things have gotten a little bit crazy around here. Things are a little different, and we're going to get into that in just a second here. Of course, though, we are coming off of a Canucks loss to the Ottawa Senators, a shutout loss at the hands of Matt Murray and the Ottawa Senators. The Canucks didn't have such a great night, and we're going to get into that plenty in this episode. Get into why things go the way they do. But of course, it's very fitting. It's very Canucks really, that they went from winning two games back-to-back against the Toronto Maple Leafs, two games that they were losing in at various points in the game, to coming all the way back and winning. That is very Canuck-like, to beat the best team, the top team in the North Division, and then immediately follow it up by losing to the worst one. But I think we're going to start with the Infinity Gauntlet, as always. We're going to start with the Infinity Gauntlet on this episode. There's two today. And one, of course, is Thatcher. One, of course, is Thatcher Demko, who will get more into today, coming off of the COVID layoff for him. That was very difficult. But I'm also going to give it to myself today, which sounds terrible. On in just without knowing what's going on. But basically, if you've been following for the last few episodes, wow, I got a little lightheaded right now. If you've been following the last few episodes, a little while back, we mentioned on the show, while Cody was here, obviously he's covering the Comets today, you might have heard us mention about the Botchford Project, which is of course the Canucks media mentorship program done in honor of the late Jason Botchford, who was a great writer and a tremendous mentor to a lot of great Canucks writers in the both past and present. And in his honor, they did this mentorship program, which last year had 9 people. The 10th was not able to go due to the COVID stoppage. But 9 people last year got to go for a game, got to take in the morning skate, cover the game that night in the press box, get some helpful advice and mentorship from the other Canucks writers there that night, and then wrote a story for Canucks.com. And this year they did it again, albeit under different circumstances. They took in applications for another 3 people. I found out on Wednesday that I was one of the winners, which is shocking. And I wish Cody was here today to kind of talk about it with me, because it feels a little weird doing this whole, I'm going to pat myself on the back sort of episode. But Cody's off doing his own Comet stuff today. That's takes precedent, of course. So I guess this is going to be on me. And I guess from that, we're going to start with we don't usually start off right away with any sort of CreaseCast questions, but there was one very important, that has to do with this. So I'll start there, I guess. The question is from a friend of the show and former Botchford Project recipient himself, David Quadrelli, at Quadrelli, host of the Canucks Conversation as well. He asked on Twitter, where were you when you found out about your Botchford Project selection, and what was your reaction? So it's not the most interesting story in the world, I'll admit, but I mean, it is interesting. It is interesting to me. And I'm sure some of you want to know how I found out. So basically, a little bit of an interesting nugget into the behind the scenes for the show here. On Wednesday, I was having a bit of I'd been up late the day before, editing the last episode of the show. Gotten up a little bit late. Wasn't necessarily having the best day, just in terms of like being very tired and exhausted, having to go work the full, your full 8 hours and everything at my day job, and just generally, just a very, it's a Wednesday. It's a very run of the mill Wednesday for the most part for the first like 4 hours of my shift, and then I get on my lunch, and interestingly enough, at the time I was actually DMing with a guest, which person who I thought who I was hoping to get in for a guest for tonight's show. I was DMing with them. For long story short, obviously they were not able to make it tonight, which is too bad. But and it's too bad because they were. If they were here, it would have made this episode and this story a lot funnier. But it's important to the story that I tell you that, because obviously I was DMing on Twitter with this person just to see about getting them on the show. So I was expecting them to message me back. And my lunch is about half an hour. It's about 12:30. I believe it's about around. I get off my lunch at about 1. And I clock back into work, start doing my my next task, basically. And then and I have my phone charging on one of the work tables we have at my job. And I see the little event about like 15 minutes after I get back to work. I see the little Twitter direct message icon pop up on my phone. And I'm thinking, oh, that must be so-and-so texting me back about being on the show. It wasn't. It was Jeff Patterson, J-Pat, messaging me to tell me that I had been selected as one of the 3 by Kat Botchford. And in that moment, it was, I'm trying to think back, but basically, because the rest of that day was such just a whirlwind. I basically, if I remember correctly, when I realize what it is, my immediate reaction is, oh my god, like it's one of those, like, it's almost like a spit take, but you haven't drank anything, so it's just like basically a dry heave. I just wasn't expecting it at all. I hadn't even been thinking about it. So I basically just remember kind of like not losing my balance, like I wasn't gonna faint or anything, but it was like very much oh my god, like one of those, suddenly your whole body feels very heavy and you're just like, oh my god. Yeah, I think that's the only thing I said. And I remember, I think one of the people working by me just kind of like, they could see me, they heard me like react or whatever, and I could, out of the corner of my eye, I see them kind of look back like, what the hell? Like, what is this guy doing? Do I have to be concerned here? Is this guy about to die or something? But basically, yeah, that's how I found out. I immediately, normally I wouldn't take any sort of message. I don't take a lot of text messages or phone calls when I'm on the floor working. But that was a pretty important one. So I just go to like one of my supervisors and I'm just like, hey, can you cover for me for like 20 minutes? Thanks. And I just take off back to the break room basically to get this all sorted out. I'm just kind of like I'm giggling for the most part, just like laughing because I'm just like, I can't believe it. Like I couldn't believe that I'd gotten selected. Faber, Quad's partner on Canucks Convo, Chris Faber, he said I was a no-brainer pick. He called me a no-brainer pick, which is very sweet of him, but I did not think that was necessarily the case, so I was just kind of like, this is nuts. Like, I couldn't believe it, right? And then, I think about a couple minutes after I actually get back to Jeff about everything and, like, the details and everything, is when he sends out the actual public tweet about me, Clarissa, and Arash, who I've not actually gotten a chance to get to know yet, just because of I just haven't. He's from Pucks on, the fellow Canucks pod Pucks on Net, who's been around for a very long time. They've been doing a lot of stuff. Apparently, he's a new host for them. He's been doing really good for them, and of course, yeah, Clarissa, who is at Quinn's Edgework, a very popular a very popular Twitter follow among not just Canucks fans, but fans across the NHL. Very good at memes and social media. I think recently got promoted to like one of their like big social media people over at Canucks Army by Quads over there. So yeah, and so to get nominated with the three of them, they is such an honor, and Jeff tweeted it out, and just basically the rest of my day, my phone was blowing up. Like, just, I've never had so many Twitter notifications. And keep in mind, very recently, there was the Twitter, I posted the clip of Elliot Friedman saying the players were not happy with how the Canucks had handled COVID, and that had really done a number on my phone as well. But this one was much bigger. This was a much bigger thing. So many wonderful people sending me Twitter messages and DMs, just congratulating me on being picked and everything. It's such a surreal moment. It was, to have, it's a bit of a sense of, not relief. I think relief is the wrong word. More of a, a sense of, I guess for lack of a better word, like belonging. Like, it's one of those moments where, I've worked at this for a very long time. I've been doing a lot of this for years, and of course I've had jobs in the industry, like freelancing. I've for a lot of different sites, and a lot of people who have really helped me to even get here and to get to the point where I was even considered for the Botchford Project. So many great people have gotten me here, and I wish I had the time to thank every single one of them, but I don't want this episode to just be me, like, giving myself, like, all the kudos in the world, because I don't think that's necessary, because that's not the coolest way to do this. But it was one of those moments where it's kind of like, you really feel like a sense of, like, your peers kind of are seeing you in they see you as maybe not like an equal, but as someone who's coming up and working hard and doing all the right things. And, sometimes there have been points in my life where I felt like, I'm not working as hard as I could be. I need to be doing more, and I need to be putting in a better effort. And I think this season in particular, I've done I think in my personal opinion, I feel like I've done a much better job at being on top of the ball, keeping things scheduled, maintaining a proper amount of work. It hasn't necessarily translated to the best personal, work and personal time ratio. There's definitely been a lot more nights lately where I have been staying up far too late. Either working on the power rankings or the show. But it's a labor of love, right? It's not something I'm doing because I have to, or because it's like, ugh, this is how my day is going, sort of thing, right? Like, this is the part of my day that I look forward to the most. These are the things that I enjoy doing. And it's why, obviously, I want to be doing this for a living, and this is what I want my career to be. Hence why I even applied for the Botchford Project. Like, this is I really want to push forward at doing more NHL stuff and making this my full-time gig. And to be selected by Kat was such an honor and a privilege, and I'm thrilled. It's very exciting, and to be picked alongside people who work so hard and do so much have done so much themselves in the Canucks media sphere over the last few years is really, really, really exciting. And I'm quite proud, and I'm happy, and I'm thrilled that I'm gonna get to go. I'm gonna be to cover the game on, I believe, May 3rd against the Oilers. And I have obviously I already have a story idea pitched for them that I'm not going to give out right now. Somebody did ask me. I'm not going to give out right now because, especially considering after the whole COVID situation, you never know. Things could change, injuries, what have you, might change the way what kind of a story I do, or who it's about, or what it's about. So I'm not going to tell anybody yet. It's going to be very much you'll have to wait and see when the article comes out, sort of thing. But I'm so excited. I've never covered an NHL game before. I've done the San Jose Barracuda games in the AHL, which was an NHL arena, the SAP Center. But it's the AHL. It's a great market. But it's not the Shark. It wasn't the Sharks or anything, which is that a big step above. It's that milestone moment, right? I've covered the Vancouver Giants last season, which was so much fun, and I really enjoyed, and I missed the LEC quite a bit. And I got to cover the Teddy Bear Toss game last year at Rogers Arena, so I've been in that press box. I won't be this time because of the COVID protocols. They've have to spread everybody out. I believe I'll be in one of I think they put everybody in one of the lounges, one of the premium season ticket holder lounges. Which I've heard is a bit of an upgrade for the media for the usual media people who get to go. Honestly, I haven't been to any games this year. Most people haven't. This year I was talking with my parents recently, or my mom, and talking about how the rink is going to the rink, whether it's whether I'm playing in a beer league game, or I'm going to do media stuff, or just buying a ticket for an NHL game. Those parts of my life are, I would say, almost in weirdly they're hockey is obviously a chaotic sport, and it's a chaotic experience, but those are the parts of my life where I'm at the most zen, weirdly enough, or the most content personally, and just at my calmest and most it's my most natural habitat, I would say. I've been at rinks. I've spent most of my life at ice rinks, whether that's for me playing or going to games. And not being able to go this year, not being able to go for any sort of reason to any sort of ice rink has been a little tough. It's been a little bit, I wouldn't say it's been, I would say it's been a little detrimental to my to my mental well-being, because you know what it is, going to hockey, or specifically I'll point out playing is it's a very nice, it's a very good relaxing, it's really good for my mental health to be able to go and to take an hour where I don't have to focus on anything other than stopping a few pucks, playing in net. And even just going to games, sitting in the stands or the press box, it's very much a nice calming, this is where I'm meant to be sort of moment, sort of feeling. I feel at my most calm and my most relaxed and most in my element when I'm getting to do media stuff and getting to cover games and interview players and everything. So it's been hard not being able to go this year, not being able to do those things for the Giants or whatever hockey is available. So to get the chance to do it this year, and to get to go to a game and to cover a game is really exciting, and I'm really happy that I'm going to get to go and represent myself at the game, as well as represent be 1/3 of a group representing that next wave of Canucks hockey media people in the city, and I'm really happy about it. I'm very excited. It's been a very cool week. I'm so thrilled, and I just want to I'll finish this part of the episode off by saying thank you to Kat, to Jeff, to Thomas Drance, to Ryan Beach, I believe was heavily involved in this as well. All the people who had a hand in the selection, or at the very least making this project and this mentorship program possible. And I want to thank obviously everybody in my career who has really given me help. My friends, family. I've had some really great mentors in my career personally. C. Morley over at Fear the Fin was a really big part of me getting to this point, and helping me, navigate covering the Barracuda and the Sharks back when I was living in the Bay Area. They've had a really big hand in helping me get there. And they were always there to, they're always there to give me an extra helping hand or or give me advice when I need it. And the whole Fear the Fin family over there, that they're not, obviously most of them are not working there now, but they're all off doing their own things. Like some of them do Locked On Sharks. Some of them are off at college doing their own things, covering their own working for other different outlets. Sheng Peng was a really big help as well over there. He works now at SJ Hockey now. I was fortunate enough to get to sit with him in the press box at a few Barracuda games. Generally, when I was the only not just was it great to have him there because I was the off. Because he's a credentialed media person who's been covering teams for a long time, like the Kings and the Knights. It was also just nice to have him in the press box because generally I was the only media person there, so it was nice to have another journalist there to talk to and to bounce ideas off of. And he was a big help in getting my career to where it is today as well. Obviously, my editors at Daily Hive, Rob Williams, who I've had on the show before, and Daniel Wagner, Pass It to Bullis, who of course is he's a big reason why I got into hockey journalism in the first place. Both of them have had a really big impact for me since I moved to Vancouver and was able to find work pretty quickly when I moved here. It was really helpful to have them there. And be able to write for them. Hopefully get to do that again soon. There's so many people. I literally could spend another hour. Obviously Cody. I have to thank Cody. He obviously did this last year. He's always been there to help with, he has his own experience in different elements and everything, whether that's with this or just with maintaining his own website. Both of us are people who have kind of built our own like websites and a little bit of our own, I guess, brand. In quotation marks. I've thrown a lot of ideas off of him. Having him around every week, like getting to talk to him every week is it's my favorite part of the week. And not only that, and just being able to text him every day. We bounce ideas off of one another, and that to me is really helpful as somebody who often second guesses what he's doing, whether that's some of my tweets or some of the article ideas I have or video ideas that I have. He's always there to lend his expertise and to offer the hey, you can do that thing even though you think it's gonna sometimes I'll think something, I'm like, oh, is this like unprofessional or something, and they'll be like, no man, go for it. Like he's just there to be kind of like the ideas man for me sometimes, and I really appreciate that because I am somebody who often has trouble getting my ideas to the actual from my head to paper or print, what have you. Again, I could spend a long time doing this. There is so many people who have been so helpful to me just to get to this moment, and I hope I do all you guys proud when I get there, when I get to there May 3rd. And I look forward to meeting Clarissa and Arash, getting to navigate that as a group. That'll be really, really fun. I'm really looking forward to it. And to all you guys who have been listening to the show and everything. This sounds like an outro. It's not, I swear. There's more episode after this. To all of you guys who have been listening to the show or reading my articles over the last, 6 years now? Wow. That's that's a long time. Reading articles or hell, like watching some of my old YouTube videos. That's this all started as just a YouTube channel, really. The Lock in the Crease was just a YouTube channel before it was a website and a blog. So it's any of you, whether it's been one article or one video or one podcast, or you've been here literally the entire time watching every single thing. Thank you so much. I would not be here without you guys today. And I appreciate every last one of you, from the bottom of my heart. If you left me, thank you, of course, for all the kind messages and really nice congratulations people have been giving me over the last couple days. I'm trying to respond to all of them. There's a lot of them, it's really cool. Some of the people have been reaching out, and just getting a chance to talk to them again is really cool. And I can't wait to do it, to bring the experience and talk to you guys about it. I believe we'd have an episode the very next day, so I'd be able to talk about it right after, when it's fresh. And I'm really looking forward to it. So thank you from the bottom of my heart to everyone involved. Thank you so much. I guess from here we should get into, less exciting stuff, which is, of course, the Canucks getting shut out 3-0 yesterday. It was a very tough game. I think I'll say this. I expected the letdown sort of thing. Like, here, when you go into as emotional a game as that first return to COVID game against Toronto was, honestly, I expected the letdown to come in the next game against the Leafs that very next day. I was very much like, okay, I don't expect them to win that game, because, it's drained, because as if there weren't already drained enough energy-wise coming out of a whole team getting COVID. It's when you go into that and play as emotional a game as that first one was, it's draining on a whole other level. And for them to come out and win that next game against Toronto was quite shocking and quite surprising, especially in the way that they did it, coming back. Definitely a few lucky goals here and there from David Riddick, but they did not get that benefit with Matt Murray, who had a great performance. I've definitely been quite critical of Matt Murray in the past on this show many times. But hey, 31 saves is not bad. He had a good night. He didn't have to be necessarily like the best player on the ice. There were definitely, the Canucks definitely did not have their best effort, I would say, in that game overall. But he came up with the saves when he had to, and I believe that's his second shutout in a little over a week. Like, that's after, the horrible start he had to the year. For him to come back with, I believe, a shutout against, I believe one shutout was against Calgary, and I believe and then, of course, this one against Vancouver. For him to come up with that was huge. And, Ottawa, we've given Ottawa a lot of credit on this show before, because of the fact that they're very clearly not the best team in the division on paper. I don't think anybody needs I don't think that's a shock to anybody. But they play and they carry themselves like they're a first place hockey team. They really do. They play and they play like it. They play like they're supposed to be like a shoe-in for the playoffs, and that they're the best team in the division. They have that effort about them, and that almost that confidence and swagger to them, where they don't play like a last place hockey team that feels like the sky is falling, and sometimes that's enough. And I think you've seen that a lot of cases this season where the Senators have won a lot of games that they probably shouldn't have, just because they worked a lot harder. Not only because they worked a lot harder than the other team, and they played like they're supposed to be there, but also because I think a lot of teams took them lightly and were like, oh, Ottawa, this is a nice cakewalk, a nice easy 2 points, and then they would take it too easy, let their foot off the gas, and next thing you know, Ottawa's built themselves a nice comfy lead. And that was kind of the case. I think in ways that was kind of the case in this last game. There were a couple power play goals in the first period that the Canucks just could not find an answer to at any point. Tim Stützle had the first goal, he's been a rookie. He's been a very good rookie this year. Drake Batherson as well has had a very good season. Power play goal for him as well later in the period. The Canucks got behind the 8 ball and they just couldn't recover. And I don't know whether that's necessarily because, the top 6. I think the forwards, the top players that were there, the core guys, did pretty well. They did their best, but they didn't get necessarily the help they needed from depth. And I feel like that's where a lot of this episode is going to go, is talking about the depth players, because that's kind of the important part right now. Like, you still have some guys, everybody's back in playing, at least from a COVID standpoint. With the exception, I believe, of Tyler Mott, who I think returned to practice today or yesterday. Or, sorry, today. That would have definitely been today. He returned to practice today. And obviously, Pettersson is still out. Beagle is dealing with injuries, and dealing with an injury as well. So you have a lot of the newer guys immediately just jumping into the lineup, like Matthew Highmore, who we talked about in the last episode. And you have Travis Boyd and Jimmy Vesey being asked to take a lot more minutes, and suddenly a Canucks team that was up until recently relatively relatively barren when it came to low cost effective depth players. Relatively, I wouldn't say, I guess, kind of replacement level players is the phrase that the advanced stats people would give you. Suddenly they had about 7 of them playing in the lineup all at once. And again, this is a team coming off of such a big COVID outbreak that and as we said at the beginning of the week, it's hard for me and for us to come on the show and necessarily harp on or nitpick the individual performances, but we still do have to, to a certain extent. I'm not going to get crazy up in arms about it or anything. It's not bench this guy or trade him sort of thing. We're not going to get that crazy or anything. But we do have to, point out the fact that some players did not do as well, and they weren't necessarily able to keep up with the players that some of them were being asked to step in and play with. You look at the lineup, the big one being that, Matthew Highmore only playing in, I believe, his second or maybe his third, his third NHL game. No, is it his first? Jeez, I can't even remember. They're already blending together at this point. But he hasn't been here long is the point. He hasn't been on the Canucks long. And he started the game on the second line with JT Miller and Nils Höglander, which is not something that, if this team were healthy, or I think also is worth noting that if they were a little bit more well put together, I think that's fair to say. If they were if the team was a little bit more properly constructed. I think it's pretty obvious that Matthew Highmore would not be a guy stepping onto your second line, but he had to because they didn't have anybody else. Yes, the only person missing was Elias Pettersson, but if you look at just about any one of the healthy the best teams in the league, and one just came through the door. Toronto is a good example, even though they didn't play super well in Vancouver. I think they're a very good example of, if somebody in that top 6 gets hurt, yes, you're not necessarily going to be able to perfectly replicate their scoring touch and their points percentage. But there's somebody who's capable of playing top 6 minutes, and it's not a huge ask for them to be up there taking that much ice time and playing with that top level talent. There's always somebody there to take their place. Matthew Highmore is probably not that guy. He should most likely be playing no higher than your third line if you're at your best and you're at a quality cup contender status. And here he is in Game 3, playing top 3, and it was pretty clear pretty quickly that was not a good call. I shouldn't say not a good call. That makes it sound like Travis Green was really banking on it or something, or made a huge mistake or something. But no, it just didn't. It wasn't working. It clearly wasn't working by the second period, and pretty quickly Jake Virtanen took over, I believe, on that second line, because he at least has a little bit more experience playing that high up on the. Than Highmore has. He's played Highmore is what I'm saying. Boo, I know. Don't try not to boo too loudly. And yeah, this is it was weird. Like just to I think it was Chris Conti. I hope I'm pronouncing that name correctly. He had a tweet today where he tweeted out basically a meme. Like the Spider-Man meme where they're like both pointing at each other, but instead there's about 7 of them, all with a different like bottom 6 Canucks forward, like pointing at each other, which is so funny. And we'll talk about a little bit about Canucks Twitter because they've been making some news of their own the last few days, again, this is a case where a lot of these guys potentially, again, on a more decently constructed team are probably in the press box. You know, they're the insurance policy. They're not the okay, you're gonna play 20 minutes tonight, which I believe some of the younger guys did. VC only ended up with 13 minutes. I'm trying to see if anyone did. From the looks of it, not so much. Mark Michaelis only played 3 minutes. A low among Canuck forwards. A lot of guys ended up getting a decent amount of power play time or penalty kill time. There were a lot of penalties called in that game. And it's too bad because some of these guys could really work in certain cases, but or could have a fit. Hopefully, again, this is more of a case of COVID. They're still recovering from COVID. And not so much this is it. This is the ceiling for them. I don't think anybody's under that impression necessarily. I will say I wish I could have seen a little more from Jimmy Vesey. I think he was somebody who really struggled in that game yesterday. Had that pointed out to me by like a couple people were saying similar things. Again, I'm not gonna chalk this up to let's write him off entirely. This is it for him because again. Given the circumstances, it's a miracle that they're playing at all. And, you know, but there were certain points where VC didn't necessarily look at his best or his most confident. The one play that really sticks out is in that second period. You know, he's in front of the net on the power play. The pass comes out to him right in the slot. A perfect pass right in front. He's right in front of the net. He has the puck right in front. All that's between him and Matt Murray. All that's between him and the net is Matt Murray. There's 2 defensemen, but they're still had not caught up to him yet. They had not tracked him down. He had time and space, but he had basically all the time in the world to shoot, and he ends up kind of making a no-look pass to nobody. Ends up getting pretty quickly picked off by the Senators defenseman and cleared. A very not good play. But it's a case of a guy who's not playing with his most confident or necessarily the most understanding of the players he's with, possibly. Maybe he thought obviously he thought there was a guy coming down, but at the same time, you know, that's a case of, okay, you have to shoot that puck. Even if Matt Murray stops it on the doorstep, there's going to be a nice rebound and you just whack at the puck. And that was a bit of an interesting, that was one that definitely caught a bit of a red flag for me. And then later in the game, also on the power play, VC has again the time and space. He's along the boards. He's along the boards close up to like the top of the circle. Has the time to shoot, but doesn't, and just looks for that pass. He just did not want to take the shot, and that's clearly a confidence thing. He ended up with only 1 shot on net in that entire game, and I think it's pretty clear he could have had at least 3 or 4. Just based on his power play opportunities. I mean, he ended up with about almost 3 minutes on the power play. So I would like to see that from him. I'd like to see him maybe take a few more shots. And that's something that's been a bit of an issue for the Canucks as a whole on their power play for the last couple of years. They've been very much we've said it before on the show, that they're a team that far too often looks for the perfect shot instead of sometimes it's just about get it on net, go for the rebound sort of thing, and they don't always necessarily play their power play with as much desperation as they probably should sometimes. I get wanting to take a lot of shots from the blue line, a lot of tee-up shots through traffic, but you're not always going to get those, and you're not always going to get the goalie moving perfectly and get an open net look. Sometimes you got to get the greasy ones, and that's not always been their calling card on the man advantage. So, for VC, I'd like to see that a little bit more. Where it doesn't have to be a perfect shot. Just get it in low. Try and make Matt Murray work for it a little bit harder, because that was something that I've said before. The more you make Matt Murray work, the harder it is for him to keep up with you. He's very much a goaltender that, generally speaking, the less shots he faces, the better he does. He's very much I'm not going to bail you out in a lot of games, but I'm going to be able to stop the pucks. If you keep me insulated well enough, I will stop every shot for you. This was a rare game where he was very good at tick. Took quite a few, and obviously Canucks outshot the Senators in this one, and he was good for the most part, but they also didn't necessarily, I don't think they necessarily made him work for the low-end shots and the rebounds as much as they could have, and maybe that was partially because Ottawa did a pretty decent job defensively. Thomas Chabot obviously had a big hand in that, playing 28 minutes. Nikita Zaitsev, Victor Mete, who the Senators claimed off waivers. Like, talk about a steal. I wish the Canucks had been able to pick him and his salary up from the Habs. And Artem Zub, great name. I like to call him Invader Zub, like that the old Nickelodeon cartoon. They did an exceptional job at kind of limiting the amount of opportunities the Canucks were getting in close, but at the same time, the Canucks don't necessarily push for those a lot, and I think they could do a better job at getting the low shots in, not necessarily looking for some highlight reel wrist shot or one-timer, and just kind of getting those greasy goals, which they did pretty well against Toronto. They got a lot more of the greasy opportunities in those two games than they did in this one. And I think that ended up costing them in the long run, and I think that's why at the very least they ended up with a bit of a goose egg here. And now we talked about COVID recovery, and there was one player who has been a little bit who hasn't been available to play up until this game. This was first game back, and the guy who I'm giving the Infinity Gauntlet to once again for the Canucks, and that's Thatcher Demko. Because, he the stats don't show it necessarily in this game. He had a .917 save percentage. All right, he stopped 22 of 24, pretty darn good for a guy coming off of the situation that he was in, and he did very well. I think that 3-0 score is, I think it's pretty. Obviously it's indicative of the fact that the Canucks couldn't put the puck in the net, but I think the fact is that without Demko playing at the level he did, that could have been a lot worse. It could have been a lot worse of a game for Vancouver, and Demko mentioned it in the post game. He was very candid about the COVID situation that he was dealing with personally. This is from the Patrick Johnston article on the Province. He talks about, I don't know if anyone is at 100% right now, which is not necessarily something we didn't know already, but it's quite interesting hearing it out loud from a player. He talked about his symptoms, which were really, I think, the most important takeaway here, where he talks about, the biggest thing for me was some fatigue and the body aches and some of the brain fog stuff that you see in the media. Brain fog. I don't think I need to tell you that that's very clear. That's not good, and that's some of the worst possible. One of the worst symptoms you can get if you're a professional athlete who needs to be able to, play a sport at a high speed level like hockey. That's not something that you can that's something very difficult to play through and to work through. And for him to come out and have the performance that he did is so impressive and so endearing to a goaltender who, again, this is his first game back from signing that big 5-year contract. So it's great to see him coming back and playing at the high level he's capable of once again, especially when you consider the fact that COVID, as from what we do know about it, there is a possibility that can affect your long-term and damage your long-term health. So to see him come back and play as well as he did is impressive. And even the 2 goals that he let in, the third obviously was an empty netter. I don't even think either of those goals were necessarily his fault. And maybe I'm biased because I'm a goaltender. But I think both of those were cases of defensive breakdowns. I mean, you look at that first goal, the Stützle goal, where it's a shot from the blue line, but on the power play. But Stützle gets behind the Canucks defense. Specifically, Olli Juolevi loses his man. Stützle's able to get a perfect deflection on it right in front of Demko, and there's not really much he can do. He's already being, I believe, screened by Tyler Myers at that time, at the time as well. So it's hard to pick up that shot so quickly, and then it changes direction just to make your life even more difficult. So there's not much you can do there. And then the second goal, it's a play in front of the net where Brandstrom is just left pretty open on that power play. As I'm trying to watch the highlight play, where he's basically behind Tyler Myers. He's supposed to Myers loses him after he skates out from behind the net out in front to the side of the net. The pass comes through Tyler Myers. Myers bobbles it, and it ends. And Brandstrom's just there to kind of pick up the loose change and roofs one over Demko. Again, that's kind of a play. That's a play where the defenseman lost his man as well. And again, not going to get too crazy upset about it or anything right now. But Myers ends up losing losing control of the puck as it comes through, but without also knowing that Brandstrom is sitting right behind him, and there's not much he can do. Batherson, sorry, I keep getting them mixed up. Brandstrom is the defenseman who has not been playing. Apparently, he was playing. He was playing. Damn it! I'm getting late in the episode. Good lord. But basically, Batherson's right. Drake Batherson right there to just roof it in. And again, not much Demko could do. It's right in front of his own net. He's expecting his defenseman to cut that pass off. Maybe there's a bit of a case of, Demko maybe needs to, I don't know if Demko necessarily saw Batherson coming, and he maybe needs to go, go to Myers, give Myers the communication of, hey, guy behind the net. Or maybe Myers expected himself to corral the pass, and it ended up just not going south for him from there. But either way, I don't think you can look at this game and say Demko, regardless of whether or not he was coming off COVID, I think he did incredibly well for what, and the fact that he had such a difficult return, it's admirable how well he played considering those circumstances. And I'm not worried about the goaltending. I can tell you that. If there's one thing I'm not worried about the future for the team, for this Canucks franchise, goaltending is not one of those worries. It seems very much like the future in goaltending is secure, at least for the time being. As far as the goaltending is concerned, though, I saw quite a few people asking the question, why... I guess asking kind of two questions. They were almost interested that Demko started at all. Number one, Braden Holtby played incredible in the 2 games against Toronto, so why not necessarily ride the hot hand? And then the other one being, this is Ottawa, why not play Mike DiPietro and give Demko a little extra time? And to kind of answer both questions, I do think it was good that they got Demko in as soon as possible. I don't think necessarily that they are gonna. This is gonna be a case where they're gonna go right back to giving him the exact same workload he had before COVID. I think, but it is good to get him back in game ready. To get him back to game ready. This is the first of 4 games against Ottawa. Two here at home. 1 in two more at the Canadian Tire Center. I do think that DiPietro should get his opportunity. I'm not entirely sure how the taxi squad system works now that the trade deadline is passed, and that technically there are some little things where the cap isn't necessarily as big a deterrent as it would have been in the first part of the season. I do believe that since Jay Beagle is on LTIR, it's not necessarily out of the realm of possibility that they couldn't have 3 goaltenders on the active roster. So they could call him up from the taxi squad to play a couple games, and they should. I think this game on Saturday night is the game that they should play him. I think giving him the opportunity to play in Vancouver is, people sometimes we make too big a deal of home ice advantage, but having the last change and being able to match lineup match a little bit, and it might wake up the Canucks a little bit more. If it's like, okay, you don't have one of your top-notch NHL goalies in net. This is a kid who hasn't played in a full year. You need to have a great defensive game. You need to be able to insulate him and give him as much help as you possibly can. That might be good for Vancouver. That might be good for the Canucks, especially for their depth forwards who could use a better effort after that last game. I do think DiPietro should start at least one, maybe 2 games of this Ottawa series, and I think it's definitely likely that Holtby's going to get a start here down the stretch. This set against Ottawa is a great opportunity to give Holtby and DiPietro a little bit more time and a little bit more time in the net, without worrying about like the implications of like the playoff implications, obviously. Although, hey, you can still make the argument. Calgary beat Montreal tonight, so the Canucks could. There is a good chance the Canucks could catch them. It is possible. But I think if the Canucks are going to play this correctly, they should be looking at all the opportunities they can to give DiPietro especially, but Holtby I would throw into that conversation as well. Give them as many chances to play as they can, because you're not going to get a lot of them after this. There's not much time left in the season to go. You don't know what might change depending on COVID and whether or not any other teams get held up by any sort of COVID restrictions. Josh Levo left the game earlier today left practice yesterday. He tested positive for COVID. Their game still happened though, so geez, we could have another schedule shift here relatively soon. But for the most part, I do think you have to look at opportunities, especially because Demko could always use a little bit of extra rest, especially with the recent couple weeks he's had. There's no reason why you shouldn't give DiPietro a look. And it would be silly not to, considering how long it's been since he's played and how detrimental it is to his development to go that long without playing any sort of hockey. You got to get a start. You got to find him a start in there somewhere. That should be an absolute must for the organization. One last thing we'll get into before we kind of answer the last couple of questions to kind of end this episode here. And that episode there was the Travis Hamonic play. There was the Travis Hamonic got hit. I guess we don't have to spend even too much time on it because but it did kind of. I think it did set the tone for the game where basically Brady Tkachuk takes a bit of a late hit. Gets a bit of a late hit away on Matthew Highmore. You can argue it was maybe a high hit on Matthew Highmore. It was maybe a high hit, but I think it looked if it were on time, it probably was a fair hit, more or less. I would say it's probably a fair hit to make. I mean, there was no hearing about it or anything today, so I guess the NHL agrees. But it was definitely late. And Hamonic goes up to Tkachuk, and they drop the gloves. They have a fight, and then Hamonic gets handed a misconduct. That was for instigating the fight. Now, initially it was thought that was going to be a game misconduct. It ended up being only a 10-minute. It was announced in the arena and on the score sheet as a game misconduct, which would have been just stunning when you watch the tape, considering you watch the tape. But it ended up getting pushed back to a 10. Either way, it was a little bit weird, considering that giving him an instigator penalty was a little bit weird, I would say, in my personal opinion, because generally speaking, the way the NHL has treated that rule, and the referees have treated that rule, it's basically if you jump the player and they're not expecting it, or they're just not an unwilling combatant, that's generally when the instigator penalty is handed out. In that case, bit of a voice break there, in that case, Brady Tkachuk looks up. If you watch the replay, Tkachuk sees him coming. Tkachuk sees him coming, drops the gloves pretty almost at the exact same time as Hamonic. Maybe Hamonic gets the gloves off just a little bit quicker, but Hamonic knew he was coming, Tkachuk knew he was coming, dropped the gloves and fought, right? So for Hamonic to get an instigator penalty in that case, I don't agree with. I don't think that was the right call. And the refs in that game apparently a bit trigger happy on the penalties. There was very much some game management going on, which I've talked about being a real pet peeve of mine in the way the NHL handles things. Quite a few penalties for both teams. I think some of them which were soft. There were some soft calls on both teams. There were some very completely missed calls for both teams as well, where teams were just getting away with some stuff that clearly should have been penalties, but none came out of them. So again, I hope for less of that, but it's hard to imagine it because obviously you're only getting so many refs out here in Canada because of the way the system is designed. Obviously, the way the COVID restrictions in Canada and the US are, you can't have people jumping across to both, and you're going to get, obviously we've gotten a lot of the same referees reffing the same series and everything. So this is probably what you're going to expect going into the game today on Saturday when you're listening to this as well. It's probably going to be a very similar game where just a lot of weird penalties, calls you're probably not going to agree with, and it's going to be a lot of time spent on the power play for both teams. And Canucks, obviously, that penalty kill had a tough night with both of the two main goals going in on that peak when they were on the PK. So you hope that they can follow it up with a much better performance. And I think with that, we're going to add, I guess, the last Canucks thing to talk about. The banners. I'm not going to spend too much time on this because people are sick to death of it, I know. There was the whole thing where basically a fire Jim Benning banner flew across the Vancouver skyline. Some people saw it. I will say that personally, beforehand, I thought it was a little, I'll admit, I thought it was a little bit cringy, just a little bit. I wasn't mad or anything, obviously. I wasn't like, oh, this is the dumbest thing I've ever heard, or what a waste of money, because honestly, if that's what people want to spend their money on, power to them. Do what you want. But at the end of the day, you know what? It's a very European soccer-esque thing, and I saw some people, pointing out, after the whole Super League debacle today, there was clips of, people, protesting, fans protesting outside their soccer stadium in Europe. It's a very European thing to fly a banner, to fly banners and to do that kind of stuff to get your message across. And I'll say this, to the people who were upset by it and were saying, there were definitely some takes of, what is it to you to tell the owner what to do with his team? This is a business. Hockey is a business. And so many times in NHL history, especially in recent NHL history, the league has done things where they've been very clear that, hey, the sport is not just about this league is not just about sport. It's about money. This is a business, and they're going to treat it like a business. And they expect you to treat it like one as well. And so for people to get upset by paying customers, voicing their displeasure with the people that they give their money to, that's a poor take. That's incorrect. It is absolutely in the power of the paying public, and hell, even the public who aren't necessarily buying tickets or buying a bunch of tickets or buying souvenirs all the time. It is entirely within their right to protest when they feel a team is not being run correctly. Whether or not you agree with the way the direction is going, you can't deny that it is absolutely 100% the fans' right to voice their displeasure. They do not have to agree with everything you do, and that's frankly the way it should be. It's not a good, when you love something, you don't, you're okay with criticizing it. You're going to always be honest with the things with the people or the people that you love, right? And so for these people who are passionate enough about the Canucks that they want to spend their money, their hard-earned money, on a banner asking for the GM to lose their job, sure, it's not necessarily, Jim Benning is a human being. Human beings have feelings. It's obviously, it's you feel bad for Jim Benning, the man in that case. But as Jim Benning, the general manager, is concerned, and Elliot Friedman, I believe, was asked about this on the, I believe this was on Donnie and Dolly yesterday or the other day. It's kind of comes with the job. You have to expect people to be critical of you and to voice their displeasure with you if they don't feel that you're doing a good enough job. That's a hazard. That's kind of a work hazard of being in the spotlight. You have to be the sour comes with the sweet in these high paying, these lucrative NHL jobs. NHL general manager is a job that only 32 people in the world can hold at any given time. And you gotta be aware of that going into it. If you're not and you can't take that, then it's not a job for you. And I don't think that's been the case necessarily with Jim. I don't know what Jim Benning thought of it, because obviously we haven't heard about it, and I don't think anyone's about to ask him about it, or ownership for that matter. But if you can't harp on people for wanting to make their voices heard, especially in a season where no one's allowed in the building, and they can't be going and chanting "Fire Benning" the way they were when Mike Gillis, when they were chanting to fire Mike Gillis back in 2014. So it's well within their right, and for them, that's absolutely within their rights to do so. And I hope if you didn't agree before, I hope you can at least kind of see their side in this particular case, because I do think they're well within the right to do so. And with that, we have a CreaseCast question to end off the show. No NHL talk today. There's not really anything to do. This is from at CSWC Andy, which I believe stands for Cap Space Without Cup. Cap Space Wins Cups. That's my bad. Another Canucks podcast in town. He asks the question, best fast food breakfast and why? And honestly, my stomach is growling right now. I have not had my dinner. It's 10 p.m. right now. Probably should have something to eat right after I'm done recording here. So this question did not help that, but I will say, this is a very good question, and I love this question. I will say I rotate between a bunch of different breakfast sandwiches at a time, generally speaking, because of my job. Sometimes I'm not able to make myself lunch, and I have to end up if I'm lucky enough to have a car at my disposal, I'll go to the nearby to pick up something from one of the fast food places nearby, or I'll order a skip the dishes in if I don't have a car available to me. And generally speaking, I rotate between a couple different places. But I will say that admittedly this might be looked at as a bit of a look down upon. People might call this a bad take. I don't know. We'll see. I'll say I have a favorite order, and that is going to Tim Hortons. My favorite sandwich is the Farmer's Breakfast sandwich that they have there. They have a Farmer's Breakfast wrap, which is so basically it's the egg and cheese with chipotle sauce and a hash brown inside. Basically is the regular the Farmer's wrap. What I do instead is I get the Farmer's sandwich, which comes on a biscuit. I love the Tim Hortons biscuits, man. I love those things. They're so good. And then then the hash brown comes in the sandwich. It's with the chipotle sauce on top. Oh, such a good combo. I love that thing. It is so good. And you get it with cheddar. That's the other thing. You ask for cheddar. Don't get the processed American cheese on there. That's nasty. Get the real cheddar. That's the right way to get it done. I love that. I love that thing. But I will say honorable mentions, A&W's English muffin breakfast sandwiches are really good. I'm a big fan of the cracked egg. I know some people were complaining about Tim Hortons switching over to a fresh cracked egg from the omelet thing that they had before. I like this way better. It's much more, it's way less salty for starters. It's not just, but it's also it tastes a lot more, I don't want to say healthy because that's not true, but there's something more fresh about it. The fact that it's, that they're actually cooking an egg to order is, in a way, it feels like a much better, a much more better experience overall, and I think they taste way better, frankly. And I know not everybody agrees with me on that, but hey, that's my opinion on it. So A&W's I quite like as well. If I'm going for something a little bit more hearty and a better quality sandwich, I'll generally do the A&W with the hash brown and their usually I like the apple juice, but or a coffee. At Tim Hortons, I'll generally get generally I get the dark roast at Tim Hortons. I get the dark roast coffee with almond milk because I'm lactose intolerant. Although I try to pretend my body is not that way sometimes. I would prefer to get soy milk. Generally, soy or oat milk are my go-tos for coffee. But the Tim Hortons nearby my work does not have that, so I usually get almond. And then sometimes if I'm feeling like really, as another honorable mention, if I'm feeling like I just want to eat the most fattening breakfast ever, I will get like a McGriddle, like a bacon McGriddle at McDonald's, with like a hash brown and generally I like I get the iced coffee there because they only have milk. They only have like 2%. So I generally will get like the iced coffee with no milk or anything and just get it with sugar, with like the couple the vanilla syrup or something instead. Oh man, I forgot about Starbucks too. Like literally this again, because I end up doing this a lot, I end up getting have my rotation. I used to work at a Starbucks when I was a while back, like about 2-3 years ago. I used to work at a Starbucks. And I liked getting like the croissant, what was it? Or the bacon and egg sandwich on like the croissant buns. Oh my god, those croissant buns are so good. But too expensive to have all the time. When you're not getting them for free, it's not worth it because they're coffee at Starbucks is very expensive. The food at Starbucks is very expensive. So I end up getting like the breakfast sandwich, and I really like the muffin. I will say I like the blueberry muffins at Starbucks with the like the yogurt. Like it's like a yogurt blueberry muffin. Really good. Those things are amazing. Heated up, amazing. Ambrosia. Honestly, but yeah, the one I go for the most is the Tim Hortons sandwich, partially because I will say partially that's due to the fact that it's the cheapest of the fast food options generally available. Like I can get I get more food for less money, and that's to me, a person who doesn't necessarily, I'm living paycheck to paycheck, so it's not like I can necessarily afford to go get Starbucks and a nice fancy mocha all the time like I would like to. So I would usually go there, but the breakfast wrap there, trust me, if you can get the breakfast wrap, but I like it on the biscuit. Get the farmer's breakfast sandwich on a biscuit. Trust me, it's, as far as Tim Hortons food is concerned, it's a game changer for them. For them specifically, it's quite a game changer. I love them. I love them so much. Okay. That is it for this fun episode, this very exciting episode of the CreaseCast. Thank you so much for listening. You make sure to check us out on all of your local podcast platforms. Make sure to subscribe and hit that subscribe button and hit that bell to get notifications on all of whenever we post a new episode on our YouTube channel. And like this video as well, if you can. Make sure to leave us a review if you listen to us on Apple Podcasts. Leave us a review. Maybe we'll read some of them out on the show. If we get some good ones in there, we'll point them out. Check us out on Spotify as well, Anchor, Google Podcasts, TuneIn, lots of different options for you out there. We're on just about every podcast platform possible. You can find me on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at Lock in the Crease. Oh, as well as TikTok at Lock in the Crease is my username for all of those. And you can check my workout on lockinthecrease.com if you're new, and there's quite a lot of you in the last couple days, a lot of new Twitter follows and social media follows in the last few days. You can check out my work at lockinthecrease.com, my website for the last 5 years, where I post the North Division Power Rankings every single Sunday. This week, I think we're going to do another themed week. I haven't done that since before the COVID outbreak, so maybe we'll go do something a little bit out of the box. Who knows? And as well as posting some features, I'm sure I will post I will have quite a few more features coming out, especially coming with the upcoming Botchford Project night. That's going to be very exciting. My partner Cody Sievertson, he is not here today, but you can check out him on Twitter at Cody Sievertson, on Instagram at Comets Harvest, and you can check him out at his website cometsharvest.com. By the time this episode is up, his most recent article, game recap on the Comets, I believe, Rochester Americans game today should be out for you to check out as well. And thank you so much for listening. This has been a very exciting episode, and thank you. So, what else is there to say but thank you? This is all these upcoming weeks. This upcoming week of just big, such an exciting moment for me to cover my first NHL game. That's all because of you guys. So, thank you so much. We'll be back with a new episode on Tuesday after another couple Canucks game days against the Senators. Hopefully they can rebound with a better effort, and I will see you next time. Take care.